The entire terminal froze in an instant. Rex, the massive German shepherd, suddenly lunged forward, his bark erupting like a crack of thunder that tore through the airport's calm morning air. People jerked back in shock. A suitcase toppled. A child began to cry. And in the middle of the chaos stood a pregnant woman, hands wrapped protectively around her belly, face drained of all color. "Please, please, make him stop," she sobbed, stumbling a step backward. Officer Mark Henderson fought to restrain Rex, gripping the leash with both hands, as the dog strained with desperate force. "Rex, heel," he commanded, but the dog didn't listen. His eyes were locked on the woman, wild, frantic, almost terrified. Passengers gasped. Security guards rushed toward the commotion. A wave of panic rippled across the hall. The woman shook her head violently. "I haven't done anything. Why is he barking at me?" Her voice cracked as tears welled in her eyes. She clutched her shopping bags tighter, Knuckles' white breath shaking. But Rex kept barking louder, harsher, as if he had uncovered something hidden beneath her calm smile. Something no human could sense. Mark's heart pounded. Rex had been his partner for 4 years. The dog had detected explosives, drugs, even missing people. But he had never reacted like this. Not with this kind of raw urgency. And then for a split second, Rex's bark shifted, no longer aggressive, but warning. Mark felt a chill race up his spine. "Ma'am," he said carefully, eyes narrowing on the trembling woman. "Stay exactly where you are." Phones were raised. People whispered. Every eye in the terminal was fixed on the scene. Because none of them, not the passengers, not the officers, not even Mark could imagine that what Rex had sensed wasn't danger to others. It was a danger threatening the woman herself. And when the truth finally came out, it would shock everyone in that building. Before we continue, if you're still here, it probably means you're really enjoying the way this story is being told. This channel is still very new, and we're trying to reach our first 1,000 subscribers, a small milestone, but a very meaningful one for us. If you'd like to support the channel so stories like this can keep coming, please consider subscribing. Just one click truly makes a huge difference. And as always, I'm curious. Where are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments below. Now, let's get back to the story. The chaos slowly settled into a tense silence as airport security pushed the crowd back, creating a perimeter around Mark and his agitated K9 partner. The morning light poured through the vast glass walls, casting long reflections across the polished floor, reflections that trembled slightly with every bark Rex fired into the air. Just moments ago, the terminal had felt ordinary. Passengers rolled suitcases, checked flight boards, chatted over coffee. But now every sound seemed amplified. The squeak of a stroller being pulled away, the sharp hiss of a radio, the whispering ripple of anxious travelers. Mark took a slow, steadying breath. This wasn't how patrols usually went. He adjusted his cap, his eyes sweeping across the scene with the instinct that only years of service could shape. He had walked these halls 1,000 times. He knew the rhythms, the patterns, the subtle cues of human behavior. And beside him, Rex matched every stride, every shift, every breath. They weren't just partners. They were a unit. 4 years together, bomb threats, narcotics, busts, missing persons, disaster drills. Rex had been the calm in chaos, the certainty in danger, the silent reassurance in the middle of the night, when alarms screamed without warning. But now, that calm was gone. Rex's muscles were taut, every instinct sharpened like a blade. His ears flicked forward, nostrils, flaring tail stiffened in a straight line. Mark could feel the tension vibrating up the leash and into his own pulse. Something had triggered him. Something Mark couldn't see. He knelt beside the German shepherd, placing a firm hand on his neck. "Easy, buddy," he murmured, voice low. Talk to me. What do you smell? Rex didn't look at him. His gaze was locked on the woman, the lone figure standing near the security gate, trembling, clinging to the straps of her paper bags, like they were the only thing keeping her upright. Around her, the world seemed to move in slow motion. A pair of tourists backed away with wide eyes. A businessman froze mid-step, coffee trembling in his hand. Even the overhead announcement seemed to hush itself, as if the entire building held its breath. Rex's growl rolled out, deep, uneasy primal. Mark felt unease curl inside his gut. He'd learned long ago to listen when Rex's instincts spoke. They had saved lives before. They rarely misunderstood danger. He rose to his feet, glancing around. Everything looked normal. Too normal. A bustling morning flight schedule, families checking in, tired travelers rubbing sleep from their eyes. But innocence could be a mask. And danger loved to hide behind ordinary faces. Mark took a step forward. Rex moved with him perfectly in sync. Something's not right, Mark whispered under his breath. Because in the next few minutes, the peaceful morning would shatter, and Rex would reveal a secret that would change everything. The terminal doors slid open with a soft hiss, letting in a stream of passengers from the latest arriving flight. Amid the blur of rolling suitcases and hurried footsteps, one figure stood out instantly, so sharply that even Mark felt his attention pulled toward her before he understood why. She moved slowly, deliberately, as if each step had been practiced. Tall, light hair cascading over a navy blue coat, dark jeans fitted neatly against slender legs, and beneath her white blouse, a noticeably heavy rounded belly. She carried a brown shopping bag in each hand, their crisp edges swinging rigidly with her movements. But it was her stillness, her unnatural focus, that truly drew the eye. Most travelers stepped into the terminal with distracted energy, checking phones, adjusting backpacks, scanning screens for connecting flights. But she didn't look around at all. She kept her head slightly bowed, face partially hidden behind oversized sunglasses, her lips pressed tight, the faint quiver in her jaw barely visible. Mark watched her with rising curiosity. Rex didn't just watch. He froze. 1 second he was pacing restlessly, nose twitching. The next, his entire body turned, rigid ears locked forward. Stance, sharp tail suspended in a tense line of instinct. Mark immediately felt a jolt of adrenaline. "Rex," he whispered. The dog didn't respond. His gaze was glued to the woman, nostrils flaring in short, concentrated bursts. The woman adjusted her coat nervously as she neared the security line. Her hands trembled so subtly that most people wouldn't notice, but Mark did. And so did Rex. Mark's heartbeat quickened. Something in her movements was off. Too careful. Too measured, like she was holding her breath. Rex released a low growl, so quiet, so controlled, that only Mark could hear it. A sound full of warning. The officer's brows knit together. He had seen Rex react to explosives, narcotics, even hidden injuries inside disaster rubble. But this feeling, this sharp, unblinking fixation, it was different. Troublingly different. Mark stepped forward, slightly studying the woman from a distance. She handed her boarding pass to a gate officer with a stiff smile, her fingers trembling as she let go of the paper. Then Rex barked. Once. Loud. Explosive. The woman jerked, nearly dropping one of the bags. Dozens of heads turned. A ripple of whispers rushed through the line. Mark felt the hairs on his arms rise. "Easy, Rex," he murmured, gripping the leash. But the dog was no longer calm. His body tensed like a drawn bowstring. His eyes burned with unmistakable urgency. Whatever he sensed, whatever that woman carried, it wasn't ordinary. It was something hidden. Something dangerous. And Rex had just locked onto it. The calm inside the terminal shattered in an instant. Rex's bark thundered through the air, sharp, explosive, commanding. Conversations died mid-sentence. A suitcase slipped from someone's hand and slammed onto the floor. The security line froze as every pair of eyes snapped toward the German Shepherd, now lunging forward with terrifying intensity. Rex's heel Mark barked, tightening his grip on the leash, but the dog didn't listen. He couldn't. It was as if something deep inside him, some instinct older than language, had taken over. The pregnant woman staggered back, one hand slapping against the metal detector frame to steady herself. Her shopping bags rustled violently as she lifted them like shields. "Please, please make him stop," she cried, voice cracking with panic. "I didn't do anything," passengers gasped. A child shrieked. People pulled their luggage close, retreating several steps from the scene. 2 TSA agents rushed in, hands raised, trying to calm the crowd. Everyone stepped back. "Stay behind the line." But Rex wasn't calming. He was escalating. His barking quickened, frantic, desperate, each sound vibrating with urgency. His claws scraped the polished floor as he pulled forward, almost dragging Mark with him. Mark had seen Rex in pursuit mode, in bomb sweeps and hostage rescues. But he had never seen this. Not fear, not aggression. This was something else, a warning. "Rex, easy." Mark shouted again, lowering his center of gravity to keep from being pulled off balance. The dog lunged once more, stopping just inches from the terrified woman. His nose hovered near her abdomen, not sniffing, but reacting. His entire body trembled with a strange intensity, as if urging everyone to understand something he couldn't communicate. The woman's face turned ghostly pale under the bright airport lights. "I swear I'm not doing anything wrong," she sobbed, voice shaking. "I'm pregnant. He's scaring me." Mark's pulse hammered. His gaze fell on her hands. They were trembling, not with the mild nerves of a traveler, but with visceral fear. Yet, her eyes darted too sharply too quickly. Her breaths came uneven, almost forced. Something wasn't adding up. A metallic clink sounded as one of her shopping bags brushed her knee. Mark's eyes narrowed. He crouched, trying to calm Rex while keeping his gaze locked on the woman. "Mom, I need you to stay still," he said steadily. "Just stand right there and don't move." The crowd murmured, recording on their phones. Whispers rippled like a wave. "Why is the dog barking at a pregnant lady? Is she hiding something? Is this a bomb threat?" Rex barked again, louder than any previous bark, and the sound carved the air like a blade. That was the moment Mark felt it. A shift, a snap of instinct, a cold spike running down his spine. He'd trusted Rex for years, through fire, blood, and darkness, and Rex had never been wrong, not once. "Daniels." Mark shouted to a nearby officer. "We're doing a secondary screening. Now." The woman shook her head violently. "No, you can't. I'm pregnant. This is unnecessary. I just want to get on my flight." One of the officers stepped forward, gently taking her by the elbow. "Ma'am, come with us. It's just a quick check." "No," she cried, tugging her arm away. "You don't understand." But the flicker in her expression, the terror, the anger, the fear of being discovered told Mark everything he needed to know. Rex growled, deep and instinctual. The officers closed in. And as they guided the trembling woman away from the security line and toward the private screening room, Mark felt an unsettling truth claw its way into his mind. Rex wasn't reacting to a threat she posed to the airport. Rex was reacting to something hidden inside her, something dangerous, something no human could detect. The private screening room was small, sterile, and unusually quiet compared to the chaos outside. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting a cold, pale glow across the white walls. A metal table sat in the center, beside a pair of plastic chairs. To most travelers, this room was merely an inconvenience, an extra security step. But for the woman trembling in the doorway, it felt like a trap. "Please," She whispered, her voice barely audible. "I don't understand why I'm here." Officer Daniels gestured toward the chair. "Ma'am, just a routine screening. We'll make this quick." But nothing about this felt routine. Mark stood just outside the doorway watching through the glass panel. Rex paced restlessly at his side, claws tapping sharply against the floor. His nose stayed pointed toward the woman, his body rigid tail, low ears pinned forward in unwavering focus. Mark knelt beside him. "What is it, boy?" he murmured. Rex didn't blink. He pressed his nose against the gap under the door and let out a low, anxious whine. Inside, the woman clutched her stomach, her breaths coming shallow and fast. Sweat dotted her forehead. She winced as she lowered herself into the chair. The female screener stepped forward gently. "Ma'am, we just need to check your bags and ask you a few questions." "I'm fine," the woman insisted weakly. "I just need to sit." Her voice trembled, but something about the tremble felt wrong. Too frantic. Too rehearsed. Mark watched the screener open the first shopping bag. She pulled out folded baby clothes, a pacifier, a small stuffed bear. Nothing dangerous. Nothing suspicious. Nothing obvious. But Rex's reaction only grew stronger. He pawed at the door again, whining sharply, then circled back and forth in anxious loops. Daniels murmured from inside, "Everything looks normal so far." "No," Mark whispered under his breath. "Something's off." The screener reached into the second bag. A bottle, a packet of newborn socks, a folded blanket. Then, when she lifted the blanket, the inner seam pulled slightly, revealing a thin line of stitching that didn't match. She frowned. "What's this?" Before anyone could investigate, Rex barked outside the door, one loud, explosive, urgent bark that made everyone inside jump. The woman flinched violently. Her breath hitched. Then she doubled over, hands flying to her stomach. "Oh, God," she gasped, her face shrinking with pain. "It hurts. It hurts." The screener rushed to her side. Ma'am, look at me. Are you in labor?" The woman shook her head rapidly, eyes wide with terror. "No, it's not. It's not labor. Something's wrong. Something's burning inside." Mark felt every nerve in his body snap to attention. Daniels opened that door. The officer swung the door open just as the woman's body trembled uncontrollably. She slid halfway off the chair, gasping for air. Rex lunged inside immediately, not at her, but around her, sniffing the air with frantic urgency. He barked again, lower this time, a warning mixed with distress. Mark rushed to the woman's side. "Ma'am, stay with me. What's happening?" She could barely speak. Her words came out in fragments between ragged breaths. "It hurts inside. I'm burning. Please help me." Her skin had turned clammy, her pulse racing visibly in her throat. This wasn't normal labor. This wasn't panic. This was something else, something far more dangerous. "Get medical," Mark shouted. Now Perez scrambled for his radio. "Emergency medical to private screening room. Immediate patient collapsing." Rex backed away slightly but didn't stop pacing. His nose twitched wildly each time he passed the woman's abdomen, his reactions growing more frantic by the second. The screener tried to offer water, but the woman couldn't hold the cup. Her hands shook too violently. The cup fell to the floor, water spreading across the tiles. The woman cried out, a sharp, piercing scream that sliced through the air. Her entire body convulsed forward. Mark caught her before she hit the floor. "Easy, ma'am. Stay with me. You're going to be okay. Just breathe." "I can't," she choked. Her eyes rolled, and for a terrifying moment her breathing stuttered. Rex barked twice, slamming a paw against the metal cabinet, as if trying to draw their attention. The paramedics burst into the room moments later, pushing a stretcher through the narrow doorway. "What do we have the lead medic demanded?" female Mark said quickly. 7 months pregnant, severe abdominal pain, rapid decline. But the medic frowned immediately. "She's too light," he murmured. Way too light for 7 months. They lifted her onto the stretcher, her head lolled to the side as she whimpered through clenched teeth. "Please, my baby, please don't let anything happen." Rex whined sharply, circling the stretcher, sniffing the air near her abdomen again. He jerked his head back, growled, then whimpered. He sensed something inside her, something wrong, something that didn't belong. As the paramedics rushed her toward the exit, Mark noticed a metallic gleam inside one of the shopping bags still on the table. Something thin oval stitched into the seam of the baby blanket. He froze. "Perez." "Bring that bag," Rex barked again, sprinting toward the door as the medics wheeled the woman away. Mark grabbed the leash and followed on their heels. The hallway echoed with rushing footsteps, frantic commands, and the rattling of the stretcher wheels. The woman's breathing grew weaker. Rex's urgency grew stronger. And Mark's mind seized with one chilling thought. Whatever was happening inside her, whatever Rex had been trying to warn them about, this was only the beginning. The ambulance screeched into the emergency bay of Central General Hospital, just as the woman's breathing turned shallow and erratic. Paramedics burst through the sliding doors, pushing the stretcher at full speed, while shouting vitals to the waiting medical team. Female, late 20s, 7 months pregnant. Severe abdominal pain. Pulse. Unstable. Possible internal trauma. Doctors rushed alongside them, guiding the stretcher into Trauma Room 3. Mark and Rex arrived seconds later, both breathless, both tense. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and rushing urgency, an environment Mark knew too well from past cases. But today something felt deeply wrong, heavy, like a shadow clinging to everything around them. Inside the trauma room, bright lights glared down on the woman as nurses attached monitors to her chest and fitted an oxygen mask over her mouth. She trembled, clutching at the medic's sleeve with fading strength. "Please, please save my baby," she whispered. Her voice cracked, barely more than a broken thread of sound. A doctor with graying hair, Dr. Holden, grabbed an ultrasound probe. "Let's see what's happening." Mark stood at the glass window with Rex beside him. The German Shepherd paced in tight circles, whining ears pinned forward. He was agitated beyond anything Mark had seen. The dog stared at the woman through the glass, as if trying to tell them all that something inside her was screaming danger. The ultrasound monitor flickered to life, a grainy black and white display of her abdomen. Dr. Holden frowned immediately. "That's odd." He adjusted the probe, changed angles, pressed harder. Nothing improved. The nurse beside him leaned closer. "I'm not seeing fetal movement." "Neither am I," the doctor muttered. A strange silence pressed into the room, thick and suffocating. The shape on the screen was wrong. Where a baby should have been soft curves, shifting limbs, there was something rigid, angular, uneven, almost metallic. Mark's pulse spiked. Rex growled a low, trembling, uneasy sound. Dr. Holden's eyes widened. "This isn't a pregnancy." The nurses froze. "What do you mean?" One gasped. The doctor zoomed in on the screen. "There's a foreign structure inside the abdominal cavity. Hollow compartments. Synthetic material. Possibly silicone. And something reflective." The nurse went pale. "Like a container." Before the doctor could answer, the woman on the table screamed back, arching violently, oxygen mask slipping. "Her pulse is dropping," a nurse shouted. "BP unstable, prep for emergency surgery," Dr. Holden commanded. Now, the trauma room exploded into motion. Mark pushed open the door, stepping inside. "Doctor, what's happening?" Dr. Holden didn't look away from the monitors. "She was never pregnant," he said grimly. "Someone implanted a synthetic uterus filled with sealed compartments." Rex barked sharply, the sound echoing against the sterile tiles. "She's carrying something inside her," Holden added, "and one of the compartments is leaking." What kind of compartments Mark demanded? The doctor's eyes hardened. We'll know the moment we open her up. Whatever it is, it's toxic. That's what's killing her. They rushed the gurney toward the OR. Rex followed at their heels, barking in frantic bursts. Mark had to hold the leash tight to keep him from jumping onto the stretcher. The woman's head lolled to the side as they moved. Her eyes found Mark for a second, glassy and terrified. I didn't want to do it, she whispered weakly. I didn't. No. Her voice broke, then her eyes rolled back. The double doors slammed shut behind the surgical team, leaving Mark and Rex in the hall, with only Rex's restless pacing and the distant beeps of machines echoing down the corridor. For the next hour, time dragged like wet cement. Rex would not sit, would not rest. He moved to the OR door, sniffing the gap beneath it, whining as if the truth inside was clawing at his instincts. Mark paced beside him, replaying every moment. Rex had known. He hadn't been warning of an attack. He had been trying to save her. The OR doors burst open at last. Dr. Halden stepped out, removing bloodied gloves, his expression grave. Officer Henderson. Mark straightened. Yes, what did you find? The doctor exhaled slowly. She wasn't pregnant at all. Her torso held a hollow silicone prosthetic shaped like a womb, connected to a small mechanical pump to simulate movement and heartbeat. Mark felt his blood run cold, and inside, he pressed. The doctor motioned to a tray being wheeled out by a nurse. Layered on it were over a dozen small sealed capsules, each about the size of a thumb, coated in a chemical-resistant resin. Liquid narcotics, Holden said. Highly concentrated. If even a fraction of one capsule leaked. He shook his head. It would poison her from the inside. Mark stared at the deadly containers, horror tightening his chest. So she was smuggling, Mark murmured. No, Halden said softly. She was being used. And if your dog hadn't reacted when he did, she'd have died before anyone realized the truth. Rex let out a soft whine at Mark's feet. Mark placed his hand on the dog's head, his throat tightening. You saved her, buddy, he whispered. But as he looked toward the recovery room where the woman lay alive but fragile, Mark felt a deeper dread rising. Because if one woman had been carrying this, there were more. The recovery room was dim, lit only by a lamp glowing softly beside the woman's hospital bed. Machines beeped steadily as clear IV fluid dripped rhythmically into her veins. Her skin was still pale. Lips, dry breaths, thin but she was alive. Barely. Mark stepped in quietly, Rex padding beside him with cautious, measured steps. The German Shepherd's nose twitched as he sniffed the sterile air, then settled near the door, eyes fixed on the fragile figure lying beneath the blanket. The woman stirred. Her eyelids fluttered before opening fully. Confusion clouded her expression at first, then fear returned as memories flooded back. When she spotted Mark, her breath caught. You, she croaked. You're the officer. From the airport. Mark pulled a chair closer. You're safe now, he said gently. The doctors removed everything. You're going to be okay. Her jaw trembled. Tears welled instantly. I didn't want to do it, she whispered. I swear I didn't. Mark leaned forward, his tone calm but steady. Then tell me what happened. Help me understand. She swallowed hard, gaze drifting toward the blanket covering her abdomen. They promised. It would just be medicine. A harmless job. Something to help sick people in another country. Her fingers clenched tightly. I needed money. I have a son, he's 6. We don't have anyone else. Rent was overdue. They told me it was legal, that I'd get $10,000 just to carry a package. Mark's jaw tightened. How did they find you? He asked. Her eyes dimmed. A man approached me outside the shelter. He said his name was Victor. At that name, something cold coiled in Mark's chest. She continued, voice trembling. He knew everything about me. My situation, My son, even the school he attends. I didn't understand how, but he promised I wouldn't be harmed, that it was safe. She forced in a shaky breath. But later, I overheard the others talking. Women like me, single mothers, refugees, people with no money, no support. They were using us to smuggle drugs. Her voice cracked on the last word. Mark's fists clenched on his knees. And you tried to back out. The woman nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. I told Victor I didn't want to do it, that I changed my mind. And that's when he showed me pictures. She shuddered. Pictures of my son walking home from school, of him getting on the bus. He said if I didn't cooperate, accidents could happen. Rex let out a low growl, soft, but deeply felt. The woman wiped her eyes with shaking hands. I agreed. I was terrified. They had a doctor, someone who put the silicone thing inside me. They showed me how to walk, how to dress, how to hold my stomach so it looked natural. Mark's stomach twisted. Did you know what was inside the compartments? He asked quietly. She shook her head. No, not at first. They told me it was harmless, but then I heard them talking about purity level, shipments, money. That's when I knew. Her breath hitched, and once it was inside me, I couldn't get help. They followed me everywhere. Even at the airport, one of Victor's men was waiting at the arrivals gate. I was supposed to hand off the fake belly and walk away. Mark took a slow breath, letting the pieces assemble in his mind like a dark puzzle. Do you know where Victor is? He asked. The woman hesitated, then nodded. He's flying in tonight. He moves between cities using different passports, fake names, but he always contacts the couriers, always knows when they land. Mark leaned closer. Was anyone else sent today? Her eyes widened, fear returning. Yes, 2 more women. One from Istanbul, one from Madrid. They were scheduled to land this afternoon. Mark shot to his feet. Do you know what flights? He pressed urgently. She nodded weakly. They gave us all matching itineraries so they could track us, Terminal D and Terminal F. Around 3 o'clock, Mark checked the clock on the wall. 2:12 p.m., less than an hour. Rex stood instantly, sensing the shift in urgency. Mark placed a gentle hand on the woman's shoulder. You've helped more than you know. We're going to stop them, and your son will be protected. Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. Thank you. Thank you. Mark stepped outside the room with Rex pulling out his radio. All units, this is Officer Mark Henderson, K-9 Division. We have confirmation of an active trafficking operation. 2 female couriers arriving this afternoon. Possible leader, alias Victor, on site or incoming. Initiate lockdown protocols on inbound flights from Istanbul and Madrid. Repeat code red. Static crackled. Then copy that, Henderson. Teams are mobilizing. Rex barked, once sharp ready. Mark knelt, gripping the dog's harness. You were right from the start, he murmured. We're taking them down, partner. Every last one. Rex's tail flicked with determination. And together, they sprinted out of the hospital, heading straight back toward the airport, toward the storm that was already gathering. Because this time, thanks to one dog's instincts, they knew exactly what they were hunting. The airport had transformed from its usual organized chaos into a controlled storm of urgency. Uniformed officers lined the arrivals area, radios crackling non-stop alert messages flashing across internal screens. Passengers sensed something was wrong. Their conversations dropped to murmurs as they watched officers reposition themselves around key entry points. Mark strode through the terminal with long, determined steps. Rex at his side, the dog's movements taut with purpose. The instant Rex's paws hit the polished floor, he lifted his head and drew in a long breath, his nose working, sorting through thousands of scents like pages in a book. Flights from Istanbul and Madrid touched down in minutes. Officer Daniels reported, jogging up beside Mark. We've got teams at both gates. Good, Mark replied. No mistakes today. Anyone matching the pattern we detain immediately. Rex's ears flicked. He already smelled something. The arrival screen blinked. Light Direction, Istanbul, disembarking. A tide of passengers began spilling from the jet bridge. Tourists, parents juggling strollers, business travelers glued to their phones. Normal. Ordinary. But Rex didn't look at any of them. He locked onto a single woman in the middle of the crowd. She was tall, wrapped in a long gray coat, an oversized scarf hiding the lower half of her face. Her hand never left her rounded belly. Her eyes darted left and right, not tired, not bored, but calculating. Rex barked once, low, sharp, decisive. Mark's pulse spiked. K9 alert, he shouted. Detain her now. The woman heard the command and panicked. She spun on her heel, forcing her way back through the crowd. Passengers shrieked as she shoved past them, knocking someone's suitcase over. Ma'am, stop, Daniels yelled. But she bolted toward the side corridor, feet pounding against the tile. Rex surged forward like a launched arrow, Mark barely holding onto the leash as they sprinted. The woman ran fast, but panic made her clumsy. Her scarf slipped. Her steps wobbled under the weight of the fake belly. She slammed into a cleaning cart, nearly losing her balance. Rex barked, closing the distance. 2 officers cut in from the opposite side and cornered her near a wall. As she tried to pivot away, Daniels tackled her gently but firmly, catching her before she hit the ground. I'm not doing anything, she screamed. But fear, not innocence, filled her voice. The impact knocked something loose. Her coat slid open, revealing the silicone belly beneath. The strap securing it slipped, exposing an inner seam. Not a pregnancy, not even close. Mark knelt, examining it carefully. Another fake womb, another courier. Rex growled not at her, but at the synthetic belly itself. Get her into custody, Mark said, and call medical to be safe. If one of those compartments ruptures, he didn't need to finish. They all remembered the hospital. Rex suddenly jerked his head toward the second arrivals gate. Flight from Madrid. Mark's heart kicked into overdrive. Daniels, take her, he ordered. Rex and I are moving to Terminal F. They sprinted across the terminal, weaving through crowds, Rex leading the way with laser focus. The Madrid passengers had just begun exiting their gate, another wave of travelers pouring into the hall. Rex froze again. This time, it wasn't a woman in a coat. It was a small, nervous-looking man standing near the exit doors holding a briefcase. He wasn't pregnant, wasn't disguised, but something about the way he scanned the crowd, the tension in his posture, the phone in his hand. Rex growled. Mark narrowed his eyes. He's waiting for someone. Then he saw her, a young woman in a long tan trench coat pressing a boarding pass to her chest, her belly rounded beneath her clothes. She walked slowly, hesitantly, eyes searching for the man with the briefcase. The exchange point. Rex barked thunderously. Everything erupted. Stop right there, Mark shouted. The man with the briefcase bolted. Officers swarmed, instantly chasing him down the corridor. He darted between passengers, knocking one to the ground, dropping his phone in the process. Before he reached the emergency exit, 3 officers pinned him to the floor. Mark rushed toward the second pregnant courier. She froze like a statue, eyes wide with terror. Please don't hurt me, she pleaded. Mark softened his voice. We're not here to hurt you, but you're carrying something dangerous. You need help. Her knees buckled. She started crying. Rex moved in slowly, sniffing around her abdomen. Then he whined a sound Mark recognized all too well. One of the compartments inside her prosthetic had already begun to leak. Call paramedics, now, Mark shouted. Officers guided the sobbing woman gently to the ground as medical teams rushed toward them. The briefcase from the arrested man was opened minutes later. Inside were fake passports, cash, a digital satellite phone, and a list of flight numbers, including the Istanbul and Madrid arrivals. The top entry read, Victor Hale. ETA, pending Mark's stomach, tightened. They hadn't caught the leader. Not yet. Rex nudged Mark's leg, looking up at him with urgent, burning eyes. "We're close partner," Mark whispered. "He's here somewhere. Or he's coming." As the officers escorted the captured couriers and the briefcase suspect away, the terminal was placed under partial lockdown. Announcements echoed overhead. Passengers whispered, confused and anxious. But Mark wasn't focused on them. He was listening to Rex. Because Rex had stopped barking. He was staring at something. Something behind Mark. Mark turned slowly. Near the far exit doors stood a tall man in a black coat. Calm. Too calm. His gaze fixed directly on Mark and Rex, and when their eyes met, the man smirked. Then he turned and disappeared into the crowd. Victor. Mark's heart dropped. "Rex, go," he yelled. And the chase began. Victor sprinted through the terminal with the cold precision of a man who had run from the law before. He moved like he knew every camera blind spot, every exit, every security dead zone. But Rex didn't care about blind spots. He could smell fear. He could smell guilt. He could smell him. The German Shepherd tore across the terminal floor, claws scraping muscles coiled like springs. Mark kept up as best he could, breath burning in his lungs. Security. "Seal the exits," he shouted into his radio. "Suspect, in black coat, tall mid-40s. This is Victor." Officers blocked the main doors, but Victor didn't slow. He pivoted suddenly, cutting toward a maintenance corridor. "Rex," Mark commanded. The dog lunged forward, slipping through the closing gap of the maintenance door seconds before it swung shut. Mark rammed his shoulder into it, forcing it open. The hallway was narrow, echoing with pounding footsteps. Victor glanced back just once, and that was all Rex needed. He launched forward with a fierce bark. Victor stumbled, crashing into a stack of supply crates. The brief moment of imbalance was enough. Mark closed the distance, tackling him to the ground with a thud. Officers swarmed in seconds later, securing Victor in handcuffs as he spit curses into the floor. "You have no idea who you're dealing with," Victor snarled. "Oh, I think we do," Mark said, breathing hard. "And thanks to my partner, this is where it ends." Victor was dragged away, thrashing like a hooked animal. Rex stood proudly at Mark's side chest, heaving tail stiff with adrenaline. "You did it again, buddy," Mark whispered, rubbing Rex's neck. The dog's ears twitched happily. A few hours later, news of the takedown spread through the airport like wildfire. Reporters gathered near security fences, microphones raised. Headlines lit up social media in minutes. Kin Rex helps uncover global smuggling ring. Police dog saves woman forced into drug operation. Hero dog exposes terrifying fake pregnancy scam. Mark tried to ignore the flashing cameras, but there was no avoiding the swarm of journalists waiting outside the terminal. "Officer Henderson, over here, can you confirm how many couriers were caught? What role did the K9 play in identifying the threat? Is it true the dog saved a woman's life?" Mark kept his answers brief, professional. But Rex became the star. People pushed forward, phones out, snapping pictures. Children waved. Travelers knelt to thank him. And despite the long, exhausting day, Rex remained calm, standing tall, soaking in the admiration with humble dignity. A little boy with a toy airplane approached timidly. Is it okay if I pet him?" Mark smiled. "Sure. Rex loves kids." The boy reached out a small hand. Rex leaned in, gently licking his fingers. The boy giggled, eyes lighting up with pure joy. "He's a hero," the child whispered. Mark swallowed hard. "Yeah," he said, softly. "He really is." Later, that evening, after statements, reports, medical transfers, and securing the last of Victor's documents, the chaos finally began to settle. The airport hummed with nighttime calm as travelers returned to their routines. Mark stepped outside into the cool air, stretching his sore shoulders. Rex trotted beside him, tail swaying slowly, ears relaxed for the first time all day. A group of airport staff stood near the employee entrance. They clapped as Mark and Rex walked by. "Thank you. You saved lives today. He's amazing." Rex perked up, wagging his tail as if politely acknowledging every compliment. Mark laughed under his breath. "You're soaking this in, aren't you?" Rex nudged his hand, as if saying, "Only a little." Then a familiar voice called out, "Officer Henderson." Mark turned to see the hospital screener from earlier, the one who had helped the first woman. She held her phone showing a message from the hospital. "She's awake," the screener said. "And stable." Relief washed through Mark like warm sunlight. "She asked about him," the screener added, nodding toward Rex. "Said, he saved her life." Mark could barely speak for a moment. He looked at Rex, his partner, his friend, the dog who had sensed what no human could. The German shepherd tilted his head, sensing the shift in Mark's heartbeat. "You did good, partner," Mark whispered. Rex leaned against his leg, eyes soft tail sweeping across the ground. As they left the terminal, the sky outside had darkened to a deep blue runway, lights shimmering in long yellow streaks across the wet pavement. The hum of distant jet engines vibrated softly through the air. Mark paused at the top of the steps. Rex stood beside him, looking out across the glowing horizon. "Another long day, huh?" Mark murmured. Rex bumped his shoulder against Mark's leg. Together, they walked toward the patrol car, two silhouettes moving side by side under the calm glow of airport lights, and behind them, the terminal buzzed with only one message. A dog had saved the day. Again, the sun had already dipped below the horizon when Mark finally stepped out of the precinct uniform jacket slung loosely over one shoulder. The evening breeze rustled through the trees that lined the parking lot, carrying with it the faint hum of distant traffic and the soft, rhythmic beeping of the airport beyond the fence. Beside him trotted Rex, calm now, steady, his earlier tension replaced by a quiet, almost serene confidence. His paws clicked gently against the pavement as he walked, tail swaying in an easy rhythm. For the first time that day, everything felt still. Mark stopped beside the patrol car and leaned back against the hood, drawing in a long breath. Exhaustion tugged at every muscle in his body, but under the fatigue was something else. Something warm, something proud. He pulled a small packet of Rex's favorite treats from his pocket. "You earned these today, buddy," Mark said, tossing one into the air. Rex caught it effortlessly, tail thumping in satisfaction. Mark chuckled softly. "Honestly, I think you earned about 100 more." Rex tilted his head, as if modestly declining the compliment. He didn't care about rewards, praise, or news headlines. He didn't chase glory. Everything he did came from instinct, loyalty, and a heart that never hesitated. The world, Mark thought, could learn from that. He looked out toward the airport lights shimmering across the night sky. "You know," he murmured, "we see a lot of darkness in this job. A lot of people hiding behind lies, fear, greed. But you cut straight through all of it. You see what matters. You act when others freeze. You trust your gut, even when we doubt ours." Rex sat beside him, leaning gently against his leg, eyes half-lidded, but listening with every ounce of attention he had. "That woman, Mark," continued quietly, "she's alive because of you. And who knows how many more you saved by exposing that ring." Rex let out a soft breath, almost like a sigh of contentment. Mark rested a hand on Rex's head. "You're more than a K-9 officer. More than a partner." He paused, voice lowering. "You're a reminder of what loyalty really looks like." The sky above deepened to a velvet blue, stars beginning to flicker awake. A plane roared overhead, the sound vibrating through the concrete beneath their feet, a quiet reminder of where everything had begun. Mark pushed off the hood and opened the patrol car door. "Come on, hero," he said softly. "Let's go home." Rex hopped into the passenger seat with one smooth motion tail wagging gently. As Mark slid into the driver's seat, a soft narration seemed to echo in the stillness of the night. Sometimes heroes don't carry badges. Sometimes they walk on four paws, guided not by orders, but by heart. The patrol car pulled away, disappearing into the warm glow of the streetlights, and the screen faded to black. And just like that, today's story comes to an end. If this story moved you the way it moved us, don't forget to like the video. It truly helps more people find these incredible stories. And hey, our channel is still growing. We're working hard to reach our first 1,000 subscribers, and your support means the world. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next story, because trust me, there are so many more waiting to be told. Thank you for watching, thank you for supporting, and thank you for believing in the power of these stories. We'll see you in the next one.